Imagine a place where thickets, marshland and trees during pre-colonial Kenya would be transformed into a booming sisal plantation in colonial East Africa. And in post-colonial Kenya, the same parcel of land becomes the groundbreaking site for construction of what was then the country's most ultra-modern housing scheme. Well, that is the story of Buruburu Estate. And as you are about to find out on Area Code, the growth, metamorphosis and development of the area is not stopping anytime soon. Situated in the east side of the country's capital city, Buruburu Estate is what may perhaps be termed as the Muthaiga of Eastlands area. But beneath the orange-roofed mansionettes lives a story waiting to be told. The conception of Buruburu Estate began in 1971 when this map was drawn. The estate was developed after a United Nations-initiated feasibility study within Nairobi's Eastlands area. That feasibility study was later known as the Nairobi Eastern Extension. It outlined an ambitious plan by the government to construct more than 5,000 housing units consisting of 2, 3 and 4-bedroom mansionettes that targeted a young, vibrant but growing Nairobi working class.
The concept was that they were trying to get a little more decent housing than you have in Jericho, Uhuru, Jerusalem, something a little more of the upper class, sort of the middle income groups, all the way to outering and out.
Alan Simu, an architect of more than 40 years, was privileged to be one of the men who constructed Buruburu. He was roped into the project during construction of Phase 3 of the estate in 1974. The then young man, who had been hired by the Mutiso Menene's company that was contracted to build the estate, recalls laying brick to form part of the housing development project.
They were looking for a project where they can sell or mortgage. They were looking for mortgage housing for our population, that group of people, the target group, who are the middle income, young working class.
The middle income, young working class targeted for the project were people like 76-year-old Philip Mirichia, who sought to buy a house here not once, not twice, but 3 times before he finally became successful.
The sad thing is I didn't have the money, because these were all questions of luck. But I went up and down. I went to my bank. They gave me a loan according to my ability to pay. I went to my employer. They gave me 2 months' salary. Eventually, I was able to pay the 10% of the cost price.
The amount Philip struggled to raise was 8,600 Kenya shillings, a deposit needed to buy a 3-bedroom house in Buruburu Phase 3, which in the 1970s sold for just about 86,000 Kenya shillings. It wasn't affordable to many, but Kenya's then middle-income earners would line up for hours at the development house in Nairobi, where the application to buy a house in Buruburu took place.
Were there any prominent people whom Kenyans can relate to who at that time purchased houses here in Buruburu?
There were. There were some were members of parliament. Others were mayors. I would like to name names.
Name names.
But if I do, they will not be. They'll not be in good lights, because They are responsible for some of the problems we have in Buruburu now. They acquired more houses than the ordinary people.
So in other words, you're saying the allocation wasn't totally fair?
It wasn't totally fair. It's like there was a pre-selection. And then the rest was left to the ordinary people.
On the 29th of March 1973, the then Nairobi Mayor, Margaret Kenyatta, would unveil a plaque to commemorate the formal opening of the Buruburu Estate Development Scheme that would see 5,040 housing units constructed in 5 phases within a span of a decade from 1973.
When you added up all the contracts, it was like we got a figure like $29 million, which is approximately, it's probably close to 3 billion Kenya shillings today. So that was the cost in 70. That's what we estimated in 1984.
That was the cost of construction for the entire estate, and at a time when nearly 75% of Kenyans were living below the poverty line, the residents of Buruburu were considered among the elite.
This is where you grew up. This is your hood.
Raymond Kipchumba remembers only too well how it was growing up in the estate. His parents moved to phase 1 of Buruburu in 1973 when he was still a toddler.
What do you remember most about your childhood in this particular estate?
Mainly is the good neighborliness, growing up as a unit, playing together, being one big family. That is generally what I remember. Remember when we came in class 1, we used to wear a cape, the British system, plus a coat. Then all that started changing as it started growing up. We came to Buruburu when they were going for 60,000 shillings a unit, which was equivalent to 60,000 pounds in UK, because Buruburu is modeled as an estate in the UK.
And indeed, the estate borrows a lot from England. In fact, most of the funding for construction of Buruburu came from the Commonwealth Development Corporation, who were on a mission to improve housing among Britain's former colonies.
Actually, our first president of this country, Mzee Jomo Kenyatta, played a very big role to get Buruburu as a Commonwealth estate to be built here, because I think when the Commonwealth heads of state met, so wherever they met, they decided that housing, they must elevate the issue of housing in Africa.
Only 2 countries, Ghana and Kenya, really ever did benefit from the initiative, which quickly went abust due to widespread corruption and embezzlement of funds. Still, Buruburu Estate was built at a time when the Kenyan government was very heavily involved in the housing of its people. Nowadays, the real estate sector has mainly been left to private developers. But the Buruburu of old would probably be ashamed were it to see its future self. I was able to get the initial blueprints for the area that was meant to have at least 12 open spaces within the entire estate. Several of those places meant for recreational purposes have since been diverted for other uses.
This, because you see here, this used to be an open space for children to play. But because of grabbing, somebody just came in due to impunity and decided to put up 4 units. Just now the kids have to play on this place. It used to be tarmac. Now there's no tarmac. There's nothing. We don't get any services. And the kids, all they can do now is just to play in the PlayStations. Nothing else they can do. This is what they are lacking.
Once open ground. Even yes. You played here.
I played here. Yes.
The building in question has been built atop the estate's drainage system. The residents moved to court to stop the construction, and the case has been lying there for 15 years now.
Hapa ilikuwa ni playing ground ya watoto wetu. Watoto walikuwa wanatoka koti ile ingine, hii koti ya juu, koti ingine pale. Walikuwa wanakuja wanacheza hapa. Hata kulikuwa na nini ya basketball hapa. Watoto walikuwa wanacheza hapa hivi. Tukaona imekuwa surrounded na mabati. Tukaanza kushangaa ni nini inaendelea. Mwenyewe hakukuja wakati hiyo. Wakati wa pili, wakati sasa unajua anatuma tu watu ye mwenyewe akuje, baadaye watu members residents wa hapa wakasema hapana, lazima tuanze kitu, tujue ni nini na ni nani ana grab playing ground ya watoto wetu.
But illegal construction of houses in open spaces is not all the estate has to contend with. Homeowners have begun building extensions within their compound, ignoring most of Nairobi's zoning rules.
Hii sasa ni inconvenience hata wakaaji hapa. Passage hapa ndio imeharibu. Na hii niko sure 100% sure mkimaliza mtaenda mwache.
Ndio ni kila wakati nawaeleza hii kiti tolewe. Wanatupeleka tu mambo hivi.
Places zote huko wanajenga. Unapata mtu akijenga, sale mtu anajenga sale, kuna kitu inaitwa soil removal. Sale unachimba mchanga, unaweka kwa lori ikienda.
Lori yenye inaleta ni materials.
Inabebanga takataka.
We thought it would be nice to bring some greenery. And to every house there was a tree.
It's one of those things that disgusts the man who poured sweat and toiled to see the modern estate constructed more than 4 decades ago.
Have you in recent times visited Buruburu estate in recent times, and what is your outlook of the estate now compared to then when the construction took place and when it was finalized?
Of course it's ugly now. It looks, I think the extensions have spoiled the beauty which we had. Not because extensions are bad, but I think they are uncontrolled.
It's a problem that has seen the population of the estate grow from 5,040 housing units, hosting about 35,000 residents, to nearly 20,000 housing units, playing host to a population of at least 150,000.
This structure was supposed to cater for up to 800 houses.
John Paul Magana was the man contracted to do the telephone wiring for each house in Buruburu Phase 2 in 1983. He says the increase in population now has become detrimental to the future of the middle-class estate.
If you plan for maybe a residence of 300 units, or even a small population of 100, and you get maybe 30 units coming up or 50 units coming up, you have overstretched the services. That basically for the fixed infrastructure like the telephone lines that were catering for a certain number, you have the power. That's why we are having a lot of, we've been having a lot of breakdowns of power outages.
So after the break, I'll be taking you through the rich history of the matatu culture in Buruburu Estate that revolutionized the manner in which the public transport sector in the entire country was viewed, from the past of known minibuses to what we now commonly call manyangas. That coming up right after the break.